A reading from 1 Kings chapter 15. In the 18th year of the reign of King Jeroboam of Israel, Abijah became king of Judah, and he ruled 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother was Maacah, the daughter of Absalom. He committed the same sins as his father and was not completely loyal to the Lord his God as his great-grandfather David had been. But for David's sake, the Lord his God gave Abijah a son to rule after him in Jerusalem and to keep Jerusalem secure. The Lord did this because David had done what pleased him and had never disobeyed any of his commands, except in the case of Uriah the Hittite. The war which had begun between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continued throughout Abijah's lifetime, and everything else that Abijah did is recorded in the history of the kings of Judah. Abijah died and was buried in David's city, and his son Asa succeeded him as king. In the 20th year of the reign of King Jeroboam of Israel, Asa became king of Judah, and he ruled 41 years in Jerusalem. His grandmother was Maacah, the daughter of Absalom. Asa did what pleased the Lord, as his ancestor David had done. He expelled from the country all the male and female prostitutes serving at the pagan places of worship, and he removed all the idols his predecessors had made. He removed his grandmother Maacah from her position as queen mother because she had made an obscene idol of the fertility goddess Asherah. Asa cut down the idol and burned it in Kidron Valley. Even though Asa did not destroy all the pagan places of worship, he remained faithful to the Lord all his life. He placed in the temple all the objects his father had dedicated to God, as well as the gold and silver objects that he himself dedicated. King Asa of Judah and King Baasha of Israel were constantly at war with each other as long as they were in power. Baasha invaded Judah and started to fortify Ramah in order to cut off all traffic in and out of Judah. So King Asa took all the silver and gold that was left in the temple and the palace and sent it by some of his officials to Damascus, to King Ben-Hadad of Syria, the son of Tabrimmon and grandson of Hezion, with this message: "Let us be allies, as our fathers were. This silver and gold is a present for you. Now break your alliance with King Baasha of Israel, so that he will have to pull his troops out of my territory." King Ben-Hadad agreed to Asa's proposal and sent his commanding officers and their armies to attack the cities of Israel. They captured Ijon, Dan, Abel Beth Maacah, the area near Lake Galilee, and the whole territory of Naphtali. When King Baasha heard what had happened, he stopped fortifying Ramah and went to Tirzah. Then King Asa sent out an order throughout all of Judah requiring everyone, without exception, to help carry away from Ramah the stones and timber that Baasha had been using to fortify it. With this material, Asa fortified Mizpah and Geba, a city in the territory of Benjamin. Everything else that King Asa did, his brave deeds, and the towns he fortified are all recorded in the history of the kings of Judah. But in his old age, he was crippled by a foot disease. Asa died and was buried in the royal tombs in David's city, and his son Jehoshaphat succeeded him as king. In the 2nd year of the reign of King Asa of Judah, King Jeroboam's son Nadab became king of Israel, and he ruled for 2 years. Like his father before him, he sinned against the Lord and led Israel into sin. Baasha, son of Ahijah of the tribe of Issachar, plotted against Nadab and killed him as Nadab and his army were besieging the city of Gibeton in Philistia. This happened during the 3rd year of the reign of King Asa of Judah. And so Baasha succeeded Nadab as king of Israel. At once he began killing all the members of Jeroboam's family in accordance with what the Lord had said through his servant the prophet Ahijah from Shiloh. All of Jeroboam's family were killed. Not one survived. This happened because Jeroboam aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, by the sins he committed and that he caused Israel to commit. Everything else that Nadab did is recorded in the history of the kings of Israel. King Asa of Judah and King Baasha of Israel were constantly at war with each other as long as they were in power. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Asa of Judah, Baasha, son of Ahijah, became king of all Israel, and he ruled in Tirzah for 24 years. Like King Jeroboam before him, he sinned against the Lord and led Israel into sin. The word of the Lord. A reading from 1 Kings chapter 16. The Lord spoke to the prophet Jehu, son of Hanani, and gave him this message for Baasha. You were a nobody, but I made you the leader of my people Israel. And now you have sinned like Jeroboam and have led my people into sin. Their sins have aroused my anger. And so I will do away with you and your family just as I did with Jeroboam. Any members of your family who die in the city will be eaten by dogs, and any who die in the open country will be eaten by vultures. Everything else that Baasha did and all his brave deeds are recorded in the history of the kings of Israel. Baasha died and was buried in Tirzah, and his son Elah succeeded him as king. That message from the Lord against Baasha and his family was given by the prophet Jehu because of the sins that Baasha committed against the Lord. He aroused the Lord's anger not only because of the evil he did, just as King Jeroboam had done before him, but also because he killed all of Jeroboam's family. In the 26th year of the reign of King Asa of Judah, Elah, son of Baasha, became king of Israel, and he ruled in Tirzah for 2 years. Zimri, one of his officers, who was in charge of half of the king's chariots, plotted against him. One day in Tirzah, Elah was getting drunk in the home of Arza, who was in charge of the palace. Zimri entered the house, assassinated Elah, and succeeded him as king. This happened in the 27th year of the reign of King Asa of Judah. As soon as Zimri became king, he killed off all the members of Baasha's family. Every male relative and friend was put to death. And so, in accordance with what the Lord had said against Baasha through the prophet Jehu, Zimri killed all the family of Baasha. Because of their idolatry and because they led Israel into sin, Baasha and his son Elah had aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel. Everything else that Elah did is recorded in the history of the kings of Israel. In the 27th year of the reign of King Asa of Judah, Zimri ruled in Tirzah over Israel for 7 days. The Israelite troops were besieging the city of Gibeton in Philistia, and when they heard that Zimri had plotted against the king and assassinated him, Then and there they all proclaimed their commander Omri, king of Israel. Omri and his troops left Gibbethon and went and besieged Tirzah. When Zimri saw that the city had fallen, he went into the palace's inner fortress, set the palace on fire, and died in the flames. This happened because of his sins against the Lord. Like his predecessor, Jeroboam, he displeased the Lord by his own sins and by leading Israel into sin. Everything else that Zimri did, including the account of his conspiracy, is recorded in the history of the kings of Israel. The people of Israel were divided. Some of them wanted to make Tibni, son of Ginath, king, and the others were in favor of Omri. In the end, those in favor of Omri won out. Tibni died, and Omri became king. So in the 31st year of the reign of King Asa of Judah, Omri became king of Israel, and he ruled for 12 years. The first 6 years he ruled in Tirzah, and then he bought the hill of Samaria for 6,000 pieces of silver from a man named Shemer. Omri fortified the hill, built a town there, and named it Samaria after Shemer, the former owner of the hill. Omri sinned against the Lord more than any of his predecessors. Like Jeroboam before him, he aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, by his sins and by leading the people into sin and idolatry. Everything else that Omri did and all his accomplishments are recorded in the history of the kings of Israel. Omri died and was buried in Samaria, and his son Ahab succeeded him as king. In the 38th year of the reign of King Asa of Judah, Ahab, son of Omri, became king of Israel, and he ruled in Samaria for 22 years. He sinned against the Lord more than any of his predecessors. It was not enough for him to sin like King Jeroboam. He went further and married Jezebel, the daughter of King Ethbaal of Sidon, and worshipped Baal. He built a temple to Baal in Samaria, made an altar for him, and put it in the temple. He also put up an image of the goddess Asherah. He did more to arouse the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than all the kings of Israel before him. During his reign, Hiel from Bethel rebuilt Jericho. As the Lord had foretold through Joshua, son of Nun, Hiel lost his oldest son Abiram when he laid the foundation of Jericho, and his youngest son Segub when he built the gates. The word of the Lord.